Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Asphalt Kingdom Freestyle Jam. We're celebrating something really, really special today, and it's National Asphalt Day. It's May 15th, 2025, and I'm so excited to be here and for you guys to meet if you haven't met a dear friend, but also a guy who I look to as a mentor and has helped Asphalt Kingdom really grow throughout the years, and I'm just super grateful for this moment with Lee Lowis to be here with you, my man. This is really, really special for me, and we'd really like to express our gratitude to you from an industry perspective. You're a Pavement Hall of Famer. You've been doing this for a few years, and you know the industry a little bit, but more on that as we dig into this. Thank you for being here, Lee, and thank you for everything you've done for this industry, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's an honor. I don't think I've done anything special, but I certainly appreciate being here. Appreciate the kind words. Absolutely.
Yeah, from one of the most humble people that I've ever met in my life, which is also which is another reason why you're such an incredible leader, Lee. And so throughout this freestyle jam that we roll through, the mission really is to help improve, progress the industry, and to help people who are watching this create a better life for themselves through this amazing industry that does exist if they choose to engage with it. And for those of you that are all in it, thank you for all your contributions to this industry and all the hard work and energy and time you've put into it as well. Lee, take us back, man. I know that you started, you started a few moons ago. I believe it was 1976. So let's rewind and let's unpack what kind of how it started and your journey.
Well, actually, you're right. It was, to be exact, it was June 26th, 1976. I had I needed money to go to school, and I had applied. At the time, it was called Goddard Dennis, and they said they don't hire college students. So I went, okay, fine. Went looking for other work, found something I didn't like, decided to go back and knock on the door one more time, and they hired me. So in fact, I have my original time card on the wall behind me, which you can't really see, but trust me, it's there. So I hired in as a laborer, and the company did tennis court resurfacing and seal coating, and they had just moved out of the city of Detroit into a suburb called Auburn Hills, Michigan. And during that summer, they put together a manufacturing facility where they started making their own tennis court coatings and their own sealer. And by the end of that first year, I didn't have enough money to go back to college. So I stayed on through the winter and through the next year, and one thing led to another. And over time, and a few changes in location, ended up back there as a salesperson, an estimator for the contracting side, and doing kind of part-time sales on the manufacturing end. And one winter I went into the owner and said, we have this manufacturing facility sitting here, and it's really just feeding us and a few other people. I think we can do something better with that. And my compensation was based on, a base pay, but with incentives and commissions, that sort of thing. But I was willing to take a step away from the contracting end, where most of my income came from, to try to promote the manufacturing end of the business. And it was, it was a little bit of a risk. But he said, fine. It ended up doing quite well. We ended up growing fast enough that we sold the contracting end of the business a few years later. And for a period of time, we doubled our sales every 7 years. When I took over surface coatings, as far as running it, there were 8 manufacturers selling sealer in the Detroit marketplace. 8.
And that was 87, Lee? That was 1987?
No, that would have been, Well, yes, I'm sorry. You are correct. That would have been 1987. You're correct. 87, 88. Yeah. And we were the smallest of them. By the time we ended up selling to Gem Seal, American Stone Mix, which was owned by Oldcastle, we were the number one manufacturer in the state. We were doing business in Michigan, Ontario, Ohio, even as far away as West Virginia and Western Pennsylvania and Indiana. So over that period of time, we grew considerably. We pushed other people out of the market. We were very fortunate. And I think one of the reasons we were able to do some of this is because of the intimate knowledge of actually being contractors. And obviously, when I first started there, I was a laborer on a crew, on a tennis court crew and weekend seal coat crew, et cetera, et cetera. Worked for a company in the Carolinas that did the same thing for a few years before I came back to Michigan. And we could take what we had learned about the contracting business and help other contractors expand their business. One of the things I could tell people was, look, we make the products. We see them every day. If you have an issue, chances are we've seen it. If we have an issue, we're going to probably see it before you. We should be able to fix it. But the ability to relate, to understand that, a guy with a 6,000 gallon tank and one helper is going out every day in the summer and making a living. I watched people start with 5-gallon pails that ended up selling their business for $20 million. So seen a lot of progression, but that early getting my feet wet, so to speak, actually hands dirty. One of my favorite stories is that about 2 weeks in to being hired, they were seal coating a GM foundry in Saginaw, Michigan. It was a couple million square feet. Was told to pack a bag, going out of town the next morning, spent 12 days out of town in a hotel. And my 12 days was spent with a broom in my hand, walking next to a blower, helping to clean 2 million square feet of pavement. But in the background, I'm watching the application process and the equipment and all of these sort of things. There was a couple rain days, got to come home, but over a period of 2 weeks, we put seal coated 2 million square feet of a very dirty, if you've ever seen a foundry or an engine plant, they're very dirty, very nasty. And I would always joke at the end of the story and say, and I wasn't smart enough to go get a real job. I wasn't smart enough to run away from that, because look, we worked from sun up to sundown to get that job done. And, the understanding of what people go through in this business, whether it's on the tennis court side or the seal coating side, I think you can't put enough value on that. You just can't. So over time, I ended up buying into the business. We sold the contracting end and I bought into Surface. And in 2012, December, we sold the business to Gem Seal, American Stone Mix, Oldcastle. And in 2016, Oldcastle sold the business to a PE firm. And I shortly thereafter became president and CEO of the company. We acquired the extended company, PMT Products, a few distributors. And then in 2020, we bought some Sealmaster locations and sold some of our locations to Sealmaster people. And then last year, the business was sold to another private equity firm. So it's, I went from $4 an hour to running a $100 million business. And I still don't know how it happened. I used to joke with my wife, Mary, and say, I don't know how I got here. I have no idea how I got here. I used to tease her and say, I promise, sweetie, someday I'll get a real job. I really will, I promise. But it's treated me very well. And I'm very grateful to the industry for the opportunities.
Lee, I know why you grew and achieved so much success from $4 an hour to where you are now. I know why.
Well, I guess part of what I left out of the story was there was this gentleman who called me one evening, and he said he lived in the Caribbean, but he needed a couple MA10s because he made a sale to a contractor and wanted to know if I could help him. And so I guess I did. And that launched a relationship with a company called, maybe you've heard of it, Asphalt Kingdom. And for a long period of time, out of our little operation in Michigan, we shipped pails and drums and totes of sealer across the country, truckloads and truckloads of crack sealant, other tools and utensils. And somebody who worked very closely with me that I will always be extraordinarily grateful for, Kelly Sinclair, helped put together a distribution system, which helped Asphalt Kingdom, and it helped us in the long run also. And then as when we were sold to Gem Seal, then we were able to expand, help Asphalt Kingdom, reduce some costs by shipping out of our other locations like Denver, or like Dallas and Atlanta, and a few others. So yeah, I met this guy, Judd Burdon, Asphalt Kingdom, somewhere along the way. And it was a good relationship for both of us.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. It took me back to, I remember it was like, I think it was March, and it would have been, I don't know, 2005 or 2006. I mean, almost 20 years ago. And to think about that, like it was around that. And I came in to Surface Coatings, and met with you and John, and we were there, and like just in the storage rooms and in the back warehouse we went into. And I remember that like yesterday. And I'll tell you, Lee, like those years that we worked so closely together, to me, those are the golden years for AK. They were really, really special. We're still having great years, but those are really special moments. And it's like, when you're taking off with an airplane, it's super exciting. The business is starting up, and you're sitting next to somebody in that seat that's there for you as a partner, and treated us not like a customer, but actually like a partner, a friend, a family member. And that was really, really special. And so to go back to why I believe that you've come so far in your life and have become such a leader is because of the way that you treat people. You're welcome. You're an incredible leader. And for people watching this right now, leadership is not easy, right? Like it's not easy when you have 3 staff members, 2 staff members, or hundreds of staff. It's like, it's not easy. Leadership is not easy. And leadership's not easy when you're just alone as well, to lead yourself. And I'd like to dig into that a little bit, because I think it's really important. And at past Roundup events, you've had some really great stories. And so if there's a story that you wanted to, kind of share with people right now in this ultimate present of, your journey from the past to where you are right now, in this present, do you have something that you'd like to share with the people watching?
Well, obviously over the years, there would be a few, but on the leadership point, I never liked sales. But I never looked at it as sales. I looked at it as, what can I do to help? What can we do to help? What can we do to help you grow your business? What can we do to help you? I had a plant manager out in Dallas, the Dallas plant, and I would go to every location at least twice a year, and there were a lot of them. But one day I'm in Dallas, and this young man starts to tell me the story about a gentleman who came in and wanted to buy sealer, and he had a tote or a drum or something. Didn't speak good English. Not the best of equipment. And he sat there and glowed as he was telling me how he talked down to this guy. I was shocked. I was appalled. Needless to say, he didn't work for us much longer, because you don't treat anyone, I don't care if we ship you 3 loads of sealer a week, or you come in and buy 100 gallons a year. It doesn't matter to me. It never has mattered to me. And so I liked the guy, but I was absolutely devastated to realize that because he was well educated, ex-military, whatever, that he didn't see the world that way. When I took over as president of Gem Seal, one of the first things I told everyone was that, look, I didn't have to take the position, but I was convinced that we had tremendous talent in the company, and I was excited about continuing to build the business with them. But really, the key point that I made was that, in my eyes, I was the least important person in that business, and I honestly believe that. And my example was that, at 11:59 on Monday, the previous president and CEO was relieved of duty, and at noon, I was put in charge. Didn't affect anyone in the facilities, anyone in the plants, any of the salespeople. Because if they didn't show up to make the material, to load the truck, to make the delivery, to make the sale, to do the invoicing, to do all of the things that need to be done to run the business, that's where we would have issues. We could have the best business plan in the universe, but if we didn't have people execute it, it wouldn't matter. It would collect dust in a drawer somewhere. And I firmly believe that, and I would tell people, and it was a trick question sometimes for new people, who's the most important person in the company? And of course, they always want to tell you that you are, right? Well, you're the president and CEO, so you are. Absolutely not. You are. And it's not just because if you don't show up, we don't have a business, but it's because you get up every day to go to work, to feed your family, to make a better living for yourself and hopefully your community. I never met anybody when I was in grade school on the playground growing up that said, gee, when I grow up, I want to be in the seal coat business. When I grow up, I want to make sealer. I want to put down crack filler. No, but you end up where you are, and it's up to you to make the best of it. And if you take pride in what you're doing, and the people you work for recognize the job that you're doing and appreciate it, then you both win. The company wins and you win. So in a nutshell, that's, maybe not exactly what you were looking for, but that's just the way I viewed it.
I think it's such an important message for any business owner or anyone that's in a business working inside the business as a team member. We couldn't do it without a rakeman. We couldn't do it without a hosman. We couldn't do it without somebody getting out there and surface prep, blowing off the lot, sweeping the couple million square feet. Couldn't get done.
Yeah.
And I think that right there, the acronym, which is team, together everyone achieves more. That acronym it's so true. And as you get down the path of learning about business and really operating with integrity, it's so true that without a team that's aligned with great culture, you have a broken business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a really important thing. It's really important for people to reflect on that, for business owners right now. If you're a business owner, reflect on that, right? Do you have core values? Are you practicing that? Are you engaging your team? Do they believe in it? Because that, when everybody is aligned like that, I think that the next acronym from team goes to CARE, C-A-R-E, which is create a remarkable experience. Because when you have thriving culture, you can now do that a lot more than if you have broken culture.
I've been fortunate enough to been asked to do public speaking from time to time, and one of these days I'll get it down. But when you're talking to a group of contractors or even manufacturers, one of the things that I always told our salespeople was that if you can identify with them, if you understand that the job they're doing is not glamorous, the job they're doing is not easy, it's hot, it's dirty. Most of their family probably doesn't understand what they do for a living. Their neighbors probably don't understand what they do for a living. I live in Michigan. Growing up, the professionals were the accountants and the engineers that work for the auto industry. And then the rest of everybody else, went to work in the shop. And when you say you're a contractor, oh, can you come build me a deck? Can you do this? Can you do that? Or if they say that, well, I don't do that, I do this, people's eyes glaze over and they kind of move on to something else. So when dealing with a customer, I guess, or making a speech to contractors, I always wanted them to understand that I know how difficult their job can be. When we would hire people in at Surface, and you met most of them, you remember Kathleen, she was our bookkeeper. Within the first few months of the summer, a new office person or whatever, whether it was Kelly or Kathleen or whomever, I would take them to a seal coat job. I would take the bookkeeper to a crack fill job. I would take the bookkeeper to a tennis court job. So they understood that when a contractor called or when a contractor came in to pick up materials and supplies, we needed to treat them, number one, with respect, but we also needed to process what they needed as quickly and efficiently as possible. Now, if you wanted to stand and chit chat for another 15, 20 minutes, that's great. Glad to do it. But we don't want you standing there chit chatting, not chit chatting, but sitting and waiting because we're slow and we're not doing our job very well or very efficiently. And I think, I've told that to other people and they look at me like I was out of my mind. But I do believe that the more the people, either at Surface or Gem Seal or whatever, understood the customers and what the customers did and how they used the materials and the products, the more respect they had for the customers and the better the experience was for the customer and the relationship between the customer and the company. I used to, when we did training, we would have these big conference tables, and I came up with this wild idea. I called it Sealer Cooking School. So you divide people up because we had people from, several states, and we'd bring them all in and we'd divide them up so they weren't sitting next to the person they're with every day. And in front of them, each station, there would be either coal tar or LP base or asphalt emulsion, and there'd be some water and some sand, and there'd be some additives, and there were tools to mix, and there were things to do drawdowns with, and they were instructed. They were given an hour to make a mix of sealer. It was amazing when we got the feedback from these week-long training things that was always rated near the top experience for a couple reasons. Most of them had never seen what an additive looked like. They didn't really understand that this one made it thick and this one made it dry, and this is how this happened. And so they would make these mixes and they would put them down on what we call drawdown cards, where you'd put a thin film down, and then they'd set them aside, and we'd come back the next day, and each group would tell the rest of the group what they did, why they did it, and what they learned from it. And so the moral of the story is, I always felt that we couldn't overtrain. If I had been able to take every location out and do a job with a customer, I would have done it, because it would have stretched their knowledge and their respect for the customer even more. So I digress, as I always do.
No, again, it's such an important piece. It comes back to, you have to continue to practice and you have to continue to learn to become a master of your craft. Otherwise, you end up in a place that's everything up until the ultimate present that you're in right now is based upon the things that you've exposed yourself to or have been exposed to you. And so when we speak about like mixed designs, and you speak about proper crack sealing, and you speak about proper patching, right? Like all of these pieces pertaining to asphalt maintenance and repairs and preservation, there's a lot to know, but there's not that much to know. There's a lot to know, but not that much to know. What you don't know is because you haven't taken the time to learn it, or you haven't surrounded yourself by a circle that knows more than you. And I think that that's such an important thing that is a segue into the next part that I think is so important is where do we see this industry going, and what are some of the things that we could be doing right now to make sure that we're that we're not consistently on a race to the bottom on, you know, the price per square foot for seal coat or linear feet of crack sealing, et cetera. It's kind of a loaded question, but I think it's important because it's something that I recently posted on Facebook that I told you about that ended up getting a ton of traction about job costing and really understanding your costs. So kind of those two things, Lee, I'd love to get your perspective and feedback on is how do we protect the industry so that we can go to and grow it so that we can go to a place that's better than where we are now?
Well, in order to go forward, let's go backward a little bit, okay? So put yourself in the Wayback Machine and go back to 1976 and take yourself forward 5, 10, 15 years. There wasn't information online. There wasn't an internet. So a lot of what you learned, you went to seminars and you know, I was Jack Foster, who used to be our plant manager way back when, he had worked for a couple other manufacturers. And he told me one day, he said, you walk more jobs than anybody I've ever worked for who's not doing the work. Jack, how else am I supposed to learn? How else am I supposed to see what we're doing right or wrong? So it was more difficult back then to get information, but it was still crucial. Today, there's information everywhere. And believe it or not, it's not all good information. It's very difficult sometimes when you're getting into this business because you don't have any background to determine what's valid information and what's not. And if I could impress upon people one thing, it's that just don't take my word for it. Don't take Judd's word for it. Yeah, there are people on the internet that call themselves experts, and I can't watch the videos because I just shake my head, and they want to be self-proclaimed gurus or whatever, and they want their 20 minutes of fame, or they want their YouTube channel or whatever. But if I were to sit across the table and ask them questions in detail, chances are they couldn't explain them. However, that doesn't mean that everything out there is bad news. I think the most important thing is to learn about what your limits are. Make sure that the work that you're doing to the best of your ability, and that you go back and you learn from what you've done well and the mistakes that you've made. I've seen so many people get into the business and think that they're going to become the biggest because they're going to do it cheaper. All that ever does is you either go out of business or you build a paycheck, not a business, that is constantly struggling to keep its head above water because they don't understand their costs. When somebody tells me, well, I can do it cheaper than anybody else, that kind of tells me that they don't understand their cost per square foot. They don't understand their overhead. They don't understand how much it costs them to get to and from a job. And if you ask them the difference between a markup and a margin, they're not going to be able to tell you. So it's not just the ability to do the work and to do the work well, but it's the ability to understand your business model and where your pinch points are, where your unnecessary expenses are, and where your growth and profit opportunities are. I think people don't always understand how expensive it is to bring on new help. 2 weeks later, they're gone. You hire somebody new. It's not just the expense of onboarding and the paperwork and all that stuff, but it's how much time it takes to really train somebody. I don't think anybody is trained in this business in 1 year. I really don't. And I'll go to something that's very simple. The hardest, and in my eyes, the hardest thing to teach a new employee isn't how to put sealer down. It's not how to get to and from the job. It's how to prep the job. Cleaning is the easiest, by easy, I mean simplest part of what you do, but it's amazing how difficult it is to teach to do it the right way. But if you keep the mindset that each one of those steps are important, then I think your business will grow. I gave a talk for you several years ago. And one of the things I said in that talk is, I'm amazed at how many people get involved and have fights on Facebook, the internet, with their competitors. And it's such a distraction. It's negative. It's a negative mindset. Take that energy, ignore the noise, ignore the people throwing the slings and the arrows at you, and take that energy and make it positive to grow your business the right way. Be involved in your community. Make sure that your customers understand the value that you're bringing, and don't just do what everybody else does. And don't race to the bottom to do it the cheapest. If it's a competitive environment, say, this is the way I feel it should be done. This is a fair price. However, if you're just looking to make it look pretty, then here's an option, but there aren't any guarantees. You have to educate your customer in order to elevate your business. So the more you learn about your business, the materials, the technical side of it, and the more you learn about running a true business, the more you can elevate your business and the industry. There is no barrier of entry to the sealer world. I can go down and spend $25 on a pail sealer. I'm in the sealer business, but am I really? So some of the best success stories I've ever seen, they've been people that grew to a size they were comfortable with. That might be huge. That might be 3 employees, but they were involved in their community. And the reason I come back to this is, if you're involved in your community and your community knows who you are, there's pressure on you to do the right thing every time you do a job, because the community knows who you are. But take what the community has trusted in you and do other things beyond that. Volunteer, do other things. Elevate your business, elevate your profile, elevate your community, and you elevate the industry.
Wow. That is so important, man. And I love the fact that we're speaking about elevate, grow, actually give back, pay it forward, be passionate about helping people, be positive in your interactions, operate with integrity, quality. Because at the end of the day, here's the thing, like what we're speaking about here right now on National Asphalt Day, May 15th, 2025. This is a meeting where it's just words, where we're interacting and sharing what the past was up until right now and what we're hoping for the future, right? And it's up to you watching right now to go and take this information, these golden nuggets, and apply it to your life.
Absolutely.
But you have to be the one to take the action. Lee and I can talk and have great conversations all day long, but at the end of the day, it's, are you going to go and create that domino effect for you, whatever it may be? Choose the right one, choose the right domino to push.
If I can make a suggestion, I dropped something. Hold on here. Well, I'll pick up later.
No, don't worry. We can cut this part out. So this is one of the spots. If we only have to do one cut, we're on good track.
I propose that go to a job that you did last year. Hopefully the job looks really good. Find 1 or 2 little flaws in that job. Find them. I don't care how good the job is, you can find them. Go knock on the door and say, Mr. Smith, we did your job last year. I appreciate it. I think it looks pretty good. But you know what? I just wanted to review it. I found these 2 little things, and I just want to let you know that with your permission, we're going to come and fix them, no charge. Look at the response that you get. It should be tremendous. But when you get in your vehicle and you drive away, think about how good you just made yourself feel. And if you keep that mindset that you're going to do the right thing, you're going to feel a lot better about yourself, and your business will grow exponentially. But I think so we have to retrain muscle memory, right? So that's a little thing like that. And I'm not saying go back to every job, because my goodness, you can find glitches on every job no matter what. But a few of those here and there, you start to retrain your brain and your muscle memory to be looking to do two things. Number one, go back to that customer and show him or her or whomever that it wasn't just, I collected my check and I forgot about you. But number two, and more importantly, every time you do another job, in the back of your mind, you don't want to be able to come back and find those one or two little things, which means you want to spend the extra 5 minutes, half an hour to double check to make sure the job is finished before you walk off it. And that makes you money. It saves you money. It raises your profile, which allows you to raise your costs and explain why you're doing things the way you are and why they're worth what you're charging. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, it's the slingshot effect, or sometimes they call it the bullwhip effect.
Yeah.
It's
yes.
When you do that, you may not see the immediate result
Correct.
instantly, but like you're saying, train, practice, and get better, improve,
yes.
because what's coming down the line is going to be something a lot better than what it is right now. There's no doubt.
Absolutely. And the word will spread through the community. And I don't care if you're in Chicago or if you're in Abilene, Texas. Your reputation spreads. And the best way to spread your reputation is to help spread good things. And that's the other reason to not get involved in fights online with a competitor, because that's there forever for them to pull and say, see how this guy talks, see how he does things. You don't ever want to talk bad about your competition. You don't want to point out how bad they are. If somebody says, well, I got a price from Pete over here and he's this, this, and this. First thing out of your mouth is, I'm familiar with the company. I respect that they're running a business, but here's why I feel that we can better service you. You don't take the bait. It's so easy to take it. But again, if you train yourself not to take the bait, to not go after that and badmouth somebody, take that opportunity to badmouth your competition as an opportunity to speak better about yourself. Ignore that they want to bait you about your competition. Or, I heard that you did this job last year and blah, 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 and it doesn't look very well. Well, I'm familiar with that job, and you're more than willing to take you over there and show you the work or whatever. And this is boom, 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 boom. And maybe it's one of those that's like, yeah, we had a couple of hiccups, but we're going back and we're fixing those. Oh, you diffuse the negativity and you turn it into a way to build something positive.
That is another thing that I can say for everyone watching right now. Like, this is huge. When you're starting out a business and you're tight on cash, what you're going to try to do is protect and preserve as much cash that you possibly can. And so what happens is a lot of business owners don't provide the aftercare service when complaints come in, because you're focused so hard on just preserving that cash because you've got to take care of you and your family. And so a lot of the time when people are starting out, they'll get a bad review and they'll go and argue it and debate it and have rebuttals, all of these things. And with online profiles right now, with Google My Business and Facebook, and where you have reviews, if you go back and you're combative with somebody who actually is leaving a bad review about you versus showing that you're operating with sincere integrity and you care about the situation and resolving it, you're able to turn those bad situations, those rough situations, into really, really positive ones for your company, where you can create evangelists and customers for life out of those situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you see a company, you go to buy a product and you start to read the reviews, and I'm human. I usually go to the negative reviews, unfortunately. And the good companies respond to those. I'm sorry, Mr. Lowis, that you had this experience. Can you reach out to our customer service and we'll work through this? Whether the customer does it or not, don't know. But I always find that a business that's willing to do that and to offer to have that conversation is somebody I'm probably going to trust, rather than negative reviews that are just ignored. Going back a little bit, you talk about the future of the business. I really think it's important that as you're getting into this, or even if you've been at it a while, to continue to educate yourself. If I was on a video conference or whatever, and I asked the question, what 3 types of latex go into additives? I don't think I'd get any response. Well, why is that important? Well, it's important because then you understand, well, Mr. Jones, what I propose to do, because I think we're going to do this job early in the spring, is I propose that I'm going to add this additive because it does A, B, and C. Or it's getting close to the end of the year. We might be able to squeeze it in if the weather's good. We'll do this to try to enhance the product. But you have to understand, here are the limitations. Here are the temperature limitations, dew point, all these things. You don't have to be a professor. You don't have to have a degree in chemistry. But the more you know about the products that you're using and how they're supposed to perform, and the more you know about pavement and how it performs, then I think the easier it is to upsell, to get the right amount, the fair amount for your work, by explaining to the customer, and look, their eyes might glaze over, but you know what you're talking about, and you can explain the what's and the whys, why you recommend this versus that. The more you educate yourself, the better off the industry is going to be. And because these things are now so widely available to self-teach, I think people who don't take advantage of the resources that we have today versus what we had in 1976 are foolish. The more they educate themselves, the better the industry is going to be. If we could sit the entire industry in one huge classroom and go through these things, I think the industry would be much better off.
So Lee, do you have any plans on teaching some of this stuff that you're speaking about right now? Consulting?
Actually, I am doing some consulting. I'm actually surprised that people are willing to pay me to teach these things and to speak. But I enjoy that part of it very much. And yeah, I mean, I'm retired. And every chance I get to do these things, I pretty much jump at it. I might not be as crazy about going to Fairbanks, Alaska in the middle of the winter to teach, but I would consider it. I would consider it. I actually have, I've given several presentations at NPE, and over the years I've refined them, and I think they do get better as time goes on, and I really do enjoy the teaching aspect of it. I do. So the answer is yes. Would I teach? Yes, I would be glad to.
Well, I think that's a lot of fun, because as part of this, what we can do is drop a link down in the comments down below and in the description that could link to get in touch with you if somebody has questions or wants to explore that.
Well, I've not done technical speaking for you, but I have done some motivational speaking for you. And from the response you've given me, and I don't think you'd lied to me, I think it's been received fairly well.
It very, very well. Yeah, we've had some of those, personal and business building retreats. And then the one we did last year in Tampa was, you actually did go a little bit technical on the
yeah, that's true. I forgot about that one.
People loved it. Well, they were reaching out to you after. They were trying to get your contact information.
Yeah.
But you have such a wealth of knowledge, and you've breathed, sweat, cried, bled, celebrated this industry from 1976 until right now, as we celebrate National Asphalt Day on May 15th, 2025. And so I'm so grateful for your time, for your energy, for your contributions, and for really getting to the point where, because I'll tell you, that first call, I remember it like yesterday.
So do I.
248-338-0335. Still in my memory. That's 22 years ago. It's incredible how time has flown, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just again so grateful for the time and energy you put in here today, and I'm excited for the path forward as well for our industry. Is there any final words that you'd love to share with people watching?
Number one, as always, you're very gracious, and I appreciate the invitation, and I always appreciate the kind words. You made the point that it's a simple business. It is. Learning a little bit more about the business in depth is not that difficult to do. Keep the business simple, but give yourself as much knowledge about the business as possible, and you'll be successful. And first and foremost, if you make it your creed to do the right thing, to do it the right way, to treat people with the respect that you want to be treated with, the golden rule, right? You'll be very successful. You can be successful cutting corners, but sooner or later it catches up. You'll be 100 times more successful if you just do things the right way, treat people the right way. That's all. And Judd, again, thank you. It's June 26th starts my 50th season, so it's been an interesting ride to say the least. But I'm very grateful to the industry and people like you for reaching out to me.
Appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Everyone, I hope you got a ton of value out of this awesome meeting. And even if you just take one thing away from this last hour, just one thing, then we're really, really happy, and we'll celebrate that with you. For those of you that go and take this information and let it fade, reconsider that. Get a notepad. Watch this again. Take those notes and apply it, because it's not that hard to take that first step. Lee, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Judd.
And to everyone on, happy National Asphalt Day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.